the Belated Binge Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Belated Binge Podcast. I'm Zach, your host, deep diving the Harry Potter series, both what's on the page and what's not, in this Lumos episode of the podcast. I didn't read these books till I was in my mid-20s, and my favorite thing about this fandom is the constant theorizing, the super interesting headcanons that people have come up with, and the countless opportunities there are for speculation about what's going on around our protagonist in this series. And that's what this episode is all about. Before we dive in, shout out to our free elf patron, Alex Swetlin, for cool benefits like episode shoutouts, early access, bonus content, and more. Become a patron at patreon.com/belatedbinge.
Lumos.
Let's pull out our wands and light the tips, but we're not blowing smoke. We're here to illuminate. I think it's time for a Dumbledore check-in. It obviously was not a great chapter for our chess master. We're talking Cornelius Fudge in Chamber of Secrets coming down to take Hagrid away to Azkaban, and Lucius Malfoy showing up with a note from the school board to get Dumbledore suspended. That was definitely not on his list of things to do today, I would imagine. But here he is. It is what it is, I guess. And there's lots of questions about where Dumbledore goes at this point after being suspended and no longer being at Hogwarts. So what's he doing? I'm guessing that I will theorize about that at some point before this book is over. But up until this point, I kind of wanted to check in and see where he is in all of this, everything that's been going on with Chamber of Secrets. The school has been under attack. It's not the first time that this has happened. He knows who's responsible for it, and yet the one thing that Malfoy got right in the whole speech that he gave and justification for having Dumbledore suspended is that Dumbledore hasn't been able to stop the attacks happening in Hogwarts. So, here we go. In my opinion, this is what Dumbledore knows in the big picture at this very moment, and maybe we can kind of figure out as we go some more. He knows that Voldemort is still around and not dead. He, I think, already suspects Horcruxes being involved in some form or fashion. He knows the prophecy in that there's some sort of connection to Harry, some kind of additional magic in his scar, based on his insistence in the very opening chapter of this series that scars can be useful. He knows that Tom Riddle is the heir of Slytherin and that he's responsible for opening the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago. He has to know about Moaning Myrtle being in the school because everyone avoids that bathroom. He's got to know why. And he's Dumbledore. He's likely talked to Myrtle at some point in time over the past 50 years and gotten a description of how she died. Big yellow eyes, I believe, is the answer to that riddle. He knows that Tom Riddle spoke Parseltongue. He knows that Harry is hiding something. He knows that Harry also speaks Parseltongue. He knows that Hagrid is innocent, and he knows about Harry's relationship with Hagrid and about his invisibility cloak. He knew all of that before the chapter started. So what about in the chapter? I think that he found Hagrid having to be taken away to Azkaban as an unfortunate opportunity in disguise. Very unfortunate, but an opportunity nonetheless. Dumbledore tells Fudge that taking Hagrid away isn't going to do anything. But he doesn't fight too hard to keep him around at Hogwarts when I think he probably could have. I just mentioned earlier on the podcast that Fudge couldn't veto a note from the school board to suspend Dumbledore. I would think that Dumbledore has as much sway as a note with the minister. He probably could have stuck up for Hagrid a little bit harder. But I kind of think that he wants to prove that taking Hagrid away is not going to stop the attacks. In his mind, Hagrid being away and the attacks continuing, as he knows full on that they will, it proves Hagrid's innocence. So while it totally sucks, after Hagrid gets released, he's going to be released with a cleared record, which will lead to more opportunities for him, like perhaps teaching? That likely wouldn't be possible without this proof. So it sucks, but I do think that Dumbledore was thinking of this as the events were unfolding during the chapter. I think Dumbledore absolutely knows that Harry is in the hut and is investigating all of this. He intends for Harry to be investigating this after all. Harry is Dumbledore's apprentice, his little hero in training. So he's speaking in ways that he wants Harry to hear. And I also think that he knows that Lucius is, for lack of a better term, a slimy scumbag. And I think he's letting this suspension play out in order to see kind of what Lucius's angle is and perhaps what, if any, involvement he might have on all of these circumstances coming together in this moment. So here's what doesn't make a ton of sense to me in this very moment. What I've laid out is partially tainted by my having read the series before, but going back to the information Dumbledore already knows, he should have enough information to have made serious headway, and apparently just isn't taking any action on, the Chamber of Secrets being open and students, Muggle-born students, being attacked in Hogwarts. The Chamber of Secrets is real. Tom Riddle is the heir. Both were Parselmouths. He has to see that connection and probably saw it originally. That might be why he was the only one that knew it was Tom 50 years ago opening the chamber in the first place. How does Harry speaking Parseltongue play into all of this? Know where I'm going? It's theory time. Dumbledore still doesn't know how Voldemort is managing to open the Chamber of Secrets again 50 years later when he's supposed to be gone. And with Myrtle's description, he may already suspect a basilisk being involved. What if he suspects Harry? Now, not that Harry is evil or that Harry's attacking anybody. He knows that that's not the case. We've already seen that bit in the book in his office when he's talking to Harry. But what if he suspects Harry to be under Voldemort's influence somehow? What if he's tying Parseltongue to the chamber and the math is all equaling Harry Potter? I think that may be why he hasn't gone more on the offense, trying to catch and punish the guilty party who opened the Chamber of Secrets. I think he actually thinks there might be a chance Voldemort is using Harry somehow, and he doesn't want to catch Harry Potter and have Harry Potter be prosecuted as the heir of Slytherin and attacking students. The more that I thought about this as I was mapping out this episode, I'm really thinking and believing that the lack of clear activity by Dumbledore is to make sure he's protecting Harry, his ticket to killing Voldemort. Harry can't kill Voldemort from Azkaban, and there's so many Death Eaters in Azkaban. Harry might not last a week. If the Dementors don't get him, the Death Eaters might. I'm not really sure that the inmates have yard time in Azkaban, but he's a sitting duck in Azkaban, outside of the protection of Hogwarts, which is a security nightmare, but supposedly the safest place in the world. And not to mention, the blood magic charm on Privet Drive probably isn't going to hold too well if he's calling his new home Azkaban. This is the only thing that makes any sense to me to explain why Dumbledore seems to be doing nothing to protect Muggleborns in Hogwarts. He's protecting his asset. He's protecting Harry. What do you think? Am I crazy? Is this all for the greater good? See, the one hole that I can't seem to fill, if he did talk to Myrtle and has all this information that I assume he does, why didn't he try to go kill the basilisk in the past 49 years? Maybe it has to do with Parseltongue and him knowing or assuming that Parseltongue plays into how you can open the chamber. And I don't know, it seems in Half-Blood Prince that Dumbledore at least understands Parseltongue, or maybe he's just using context clues in the Gaunt memory scene to know what's going on. That part has never been very clear in the fandom, but I'm looking forward to discussing it more in about 6 years when I finally get to covering that book. But I don't know, the why over the past 49 years, I think that we can chalk up to, if that had happened, we wouldn't have this book. But either way, let me know your thoughts. What do you think of that theory? In the next episode, we'll dive deeper into the chapter's foreshadowing, character choices, as well as what didn't quite make sense. To me, at least. Thanks for listening to the Belated Binge Podcast.